gone.
Welcome everyone, this is a great turnout. Thank you so much for the Healthsick Nation for leading. We're here on coastal Salish territory, specifically the Tsleil-Waututh, Musqueam and Squamish. Edwin Newman, who will be speaking on behalf of Wyola and the Healthsick Nation.
Away, Dimas. Daar kan heel veel korten. Dus kan ik niet dus krijgen korten. Ik erg schrakken met kan ik weer gewoon eigenlijk gaan. Ik krijg zeg ik in zo wel goed slecht mag. Chiefs, ladies and gentlemen, it's my privilege to speak on behalf of our head chief Woyala, who is unable to make it here today, and the chiefs of the Headsuk Nation, and the people of the Headsuk Nation. We want to thank you for coming out here today, support an issue that is very important, not just to the Headsuk people, but to all coastal people. This is one issue where we have to stand together to fight this issue. We can't allow Harper and his government to sell us out to the big oil companies. We are trying to protect a way of life. A way of life that we've enjoyed as Headsuk people, and as coastal people, since time immemorial. And we see the way development is destroying the resources that we depend on in the sea. And we're getting tired of being the victims of those kinds of issues. It's time we stood together and stopped it. It's important for the future of our children, our young people, that we stand together here today to fight for an issue that's important to the future of our young people. This is the second oil inquiry I've been involved in. The Andrew Thompson inquiry was the first one. And I'll never forget what an elder at that time said to us. Fish to us is like bread to the white man. We can't live without it. And that's something we always remember. We know what an oil spill will do to the delicate habitat on our coast. The herring spawning areas, the seaweed areas that we eat. So on behalf of the chiefs again, the Headsuk, I'd just like to thank all of you for coming out here to support us today. And we're pleading with our coastal neighbors to stand with us to fight this issue. I know when we stand together, we are a powerful people, and we have an opportunity to show the government of Canada that together we have a big voice. And they have to listen to what we have to say, because it's important to us that we stop what's happening. All people, the Headsuk people, have always had a position. No oil tankers on the coast. That position has never changed. And it always will be the position of the Headsuk, because we're trying to save a way of life that's important to us. Thank you all so very much for showing your support today.
Thank you, Edwin. My name is Nikki Skuse, and I'm with Forest Ethics. And like many of you here in other circles, I am also known as a radical, as a green Grinch, as an adversary, or an enemy of the state. But the reality is that Enbridge's proposal to build 2 tar sands pipelines to carry dirty oil across nearly 800 rivers and streams, including the mighty Fraser River watershed, including the Skeena wild salmon watershed, all the way through to jeopardize 45,000 existing tourism and fisheries jobs, to jeopardize the existing ways of life and culture of people on the coast, to introduce over 225 oil supertankers to the Great Bear Rainforest to ship not only unrefined but unupgraded oil to Asian and US markets. To me, that is radical, not trying to stop it. And all of this bullying is a reflection that we are having an impact, that our voices are being heard. Our voices are loud, our voices are important, and our voices are strong. And we will not be silenced.
No!
So this battle will be tough and long. We know that. A lot of us have been fighting this for a long time. But we know that we're going to win this one. And we need everyone to work together to stop, whether it's Enbridge's pipeline and tanker project, or Kinder Morgan's expansion project, or CN's pipeline on rails project. We need to stop oil tanker expansion on British Columbia's beautiful coast. So let's hear your voices loud and strong. No pipelines, no tankers, no problem. 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 All right. So, I have the privilege of introducing to you now the Executive Director of the Coastal First Nations, who have taken a strong stance against these oil tankers for a long time. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Art Sterrett.
Why some giget, sigana manana, legigiget, edagabawalsik, chiefs, matriarchs, and all you people of noble birth. It's my pleasure and my honor to be standing here with the Heiltsuk chiefs and all the chiefs of the coast on the anniversary of the Exxon Valdez, one of the most devastating environmental disasters that ever visited our coast. 1 million gallons of oil that destroyed a coast in Alaska equivalent to almost the whole coast of British Columbia. And that happened 23 years ago. For the past dozen or so years, I've had the privilege of working with the Wiikanuk, the Nukal, the Heiltsuk, the Kitasukhehes, the Gitgat, the Haisla, Metlakatla, Masset, Skidegit, and the Council of the Haida Nation. This alliance represents 20,000 souls who live and work and breathe in the Great Bear Rainforest. We have investigated the benefits and the impacts of allowing tankers to ply our waters, and we have found that no good can come of the Enbridge tankers. Let me share some of the findings that we had over the last number of years. 25 years ago, the Kitimat Valley Pipeline was first proposed to bring oil into Canada because at that time we had a deficit. Isn't it odd that now that we supposedly have a surplus, and we don't, in fact, the east coast of Canada imports 780,000 barrels of oil a day. And Enbridge is proposing to kick 500,000 barrels out of the coast of British Columbia, while our fellow Canadians pay the top prices in the world for oil. I don't think this is national security. I think this is a travesty. When the Exxon Valdez sank and spilled oil on the coast, 7% of that oil was cleaned up. 7%. Almost $1 billion in compensation was won by the courts, in the courts for the people in Alaska. To this day, not 1 cent has ever been paid by big oil to those people in Alaska. They have fought them in the courts every step of the way. Oil does not compensate people, it just fights them. Ladies and gentlemen, I and my colleagues and the chief of the Heiltsuk have traveled throughout this land to investigate the impacts of oil from China to the Gulf of Mexico. And what we found in those travels is the people in those areas told us to look out for big oil. They said oil has a culture that will swallow yours up. And we said, no way, they can't swallow up the culture of the coastal people. We've been here for over 10,000 years and we will remain here. But let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, those words that we heard from Alaska to the Gulf and from China are starting to ring somewhat true. In Canada, we have been attacked by oil in the guise of the federal government. They have lied to us. They have cheated us. They have tried to bribe us. They have lied about the national security, all in the name of getting a higher price for oil. And ladies and gentlemen, we've got something even more critical in front of us today. This federal government and big oil are trampling on the democracy of Canadians as we stand here today. We cannot allow this to happen. We cannot allow oil to take over our federal government. Is it any coincidence that all the robocalls that got this government elected came out of Alberta? I don't think so. Our well-being as First Nations is dependent on our lands and our waters. We are inseparable from it, and we cannot fail. We will not fail. Democracy is alive and well in British Columbia, and with your help, ladies and gentlemen, and the rest of British Columbians, we will stop this black plague from saturating our province. Thank you very much.
So our next speaker was supposed to be Dr. Ricky Ott from, she was a fisherwoman in Prince William Sound when the Exxon Valdez happened, and unfortunately she sends her regrets because she has fallen ill. So she sends her apologies, and her solidarities are here with us today. So someone who has helped stop a tar sands pipeline and is the founder of 350.org, I'd like to introduce next Dr. Bill McKibben.
Well, now what a pleasure to be with you. You guys are very tough. I'm afraid if we had down in the States a rally and it was raining a little bit and things, I don't know. You guys are more than tough enough to take on the oil companies, that's for sure. In fact, it's a great pleasure to be someplace where the weather's doing what it's supposed to. Last week across eastern United States and eastern Canada, things were completely, utterly out of balance. The world that we have lived in as human beings for the last 10,000 years is shifting around us. And the reason that it's shifting around us is that carbon we are pouring into the atmosphere. That's why the ocean is 30% more acid than it was 40 years ago. That's why the Arctic has 40% less ice in the summer. That's why we're seeing drought and flood in one place after another around this planet. Our group 350.org works in every country on earth except North Korea. So we're out all the time talking with people all over the world, and the message everywhere is the same. The planet is starting to come unglued because we are raising the temperature. Things are going wrong. And you guys, along with protecting this most beautiful coastline, and along with protecting all the people and other creatures that have been here for so long, you also have the great honor and the great burden of having to help protect the rest of the planet. What they want is for British Columbia to be a kind of carbon portal, a kind of carbon gateway where oil and coal and a lot of other things can come pouring out of the interior and get out into the rest of the planet to be burnt. And we just can't let that happen. That oil has got to stay in the ground. And so all I want to do is bring you the greetings from people all over the world who are so aware of what you're doing and so much hoping that you're able to succeed, just as we need to hope that they will succeed in all the other fights that are going on around the planet, around carbon right now. Sometimes these fights get hard, and I know you guys will be able to do it. We, in August in the States, 1,253 of us went to jail in the biggest civil disobedience action in 30 years in the United States. And for the moment, we've stopped this Keystone pipeline. Now, Big Oil is fighting back as hard as they can, and they will fight hard. They have all the money in the world, so we need a different kind of currency to work in. Not money, passion, spirit, creativity. If we summon that kind of love, then we will be able to beat them. And that momentum is beginning to shift. They're suddenly a little nervous. They're suddenly a little bit on the run. And that's because of you. Do not think for a moment, and here I want to echo what people were saying a minute ago, and I'll just finish by saying it. Do not ever let them tell you that you are an extremist, or I was a little worried coming up here because I'd read what your foreign minister said about foreign extremists coming. I guess he meant me, kind of, but don't ever let them say that to you. All we want to do is keep the world a little bit like it was when we were born into it. The radicals work at Kinder Morgan and at Enbridge. They are willing to alter the chemical composition of the atmosphere in order to make money. No other human beings have ever come up outside the fossil fuel industry with as radical a plan as that. They are willing to change the sky around us in order to get richer. And we cannot let it happen. And this is one of these great moments in human history. And you guys are absolutely at the white hot center of it. Thank you so, so much for your work.
Reuben George from the Tsleil-Waututh Nation.
Hey, Siam, Hojka, Siam, Siayap, Chief Skalutstan Snot to Tsleil-Waututh, Chief Yopanan Snot to Tsleil-Waututh Squamish. Thank you for this opportunity, and I do welcome you to our territory here. You know, the initiatives that we're pushing forward and the things that we demand are deeply entrenched in who I am as a Tsleil-Waututh person. Our creation of where we come from as human beings comes directly from the water here. As our legend goes, a wolf turned into a man, the first Tsleil-Waututh. He was lonely and he swam to the bottom of the ocean right here. And he picked up some sediment from the bottom and he brought it and he put it on shore. And he asked the Creator to give him a companion, and he turned into a woman. Our lineage from where we come from and who we are directly come from the water. I'm very appreciative of my brother Bill and Ben West and Rex Wheeler and the people that I feel are pushing our initiatives forward and bringing exposure to the things that are happening that are unacceptable. Before they met with us, they prayed with us. They came to our ceremonies. They came to understand where we come from as Tsleil-Waututh. They came to understand what kind of connection we do have with the water that is here. And the water here, I played in the water. I swam in the water. I canoed in the water. I ate out of the water. That helped me to grow and have a connection that my ancestors have, to have a connection to where my ancestors come from. And I also did ceremony out of that water. I've grown to have a loving and spiritual connection with that water. It feeds my spirit. It feeds who I am. And in ceremony, my brothers, that's what they grew to love too. And that's what you're with our partnership with one another, with my relatives here from up north, the relatives from the east and the west, coming together to say no more. No more desecration of our lands and our waters. Let's save what we have. What they don't know and what they don't understand. And maybe what we'll teach them in this process. It's not just us. For me to continue to grow, to have that spiritual connection with that water. It's for my children. It's for your children. It's for Kinder Morgan, their children. Because they're blinded by greed. Because they're blinded by their dysfunction of how they are disconnected to the water like they should be. Every human being should have that hereditary right as a connection to the spirit of who we are. As spiritual beings, Kinder Morgan, we're doing it for their children. We're doing it so they can have a connection, so they can have clean water, so they can have clean air. So if there's a blessing that I could put on to this day, as you as guests in my community, you as guests in our land, that we could come together, one heart and one mind and one spirit, to send our messages out and show people that it is not a good thing, that it is causing damage, that each and every one of us with the spirit or spiritual message will be a pebble that's thrown into the pond and ripple out to the people so they can understand that it's not good for them, it's not good for their children, it's not good for our future. We have to have water where we can eat out of, that we can do ceremony in, that we can continue in the spirit of my ancestors, have a spiritual connection to the water. So thank you all very much. Thank you all, and blessings on to each and every one of you. Collectively, I ask us to have a prayer, one heart, one mind, to have a big wall of love and protection around us and the people that are leading in this initiative with our leadership here and the advisors of our ancestors and our elders. I ask that we could have one heart, one mind, and a good prayer. Creator could take everything we love. Creator could take away the people that we love, our house, our car. Creator could take away anything. But there's one gift that Creator gave us, and that's what I believe is the most powerful, is Creator can't take away, will not take away our prayers. Our prayers will continue even if we go. So I pray that we can come together and continue to come together in a prayerful and a good way with the fundamentals of our spiritual belief of love, honor, respect, dignity, pride, forgiveness, passion, and compassion, and treat our land the same way, and treat our waters the same way. So, on behalf of my family, my brother here, I'd like to say thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks
so much for the Tsleil-Waututh for having us on their territories. Right now we're going to break up the speeches a little bit and hear from C.R. Avery for a little bit of music.
Wake up in the morning, fill my pants and play for a brain. People without visitors, driving scenes, same for the blame the shit pigs mess. Pub the floor, ain't gonna walk on Maggie's farm no more. Hands up to pick up, hands up to down, pass you to the prenup to up, having a good time, finds you every time you slam the door. Ain't gonna walk for Maggie's brother, no more. No more, no more. try my best to be just like I am. Everybody wants you to be just like them. Just a big wild you slave, pissed up to the ball. Ain't gonna work on me, it's fun no more. Ain't gonna work on me, fun no more. No more. No more. Wake up in the morning, hold my hands and pray for rain.
All right, next up we have Grand Chief Stuart Phillip, who's going to share a few words. So welcome.
Wow. Why Haskell Kasinak Seal? Chaya Squeeze. Asiut. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the sacred homelands of the Coast Salish people, namely Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh. I'd like to thank our brother Ruben for his very inspirational welcome. And I really, there's not a heck of a lot to say after hearing the incredibly dynamic speakers that we've heard up to this point. I want to personalize this. Yesterday, about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, all of this work that we've been doing as hereditary leaders, as elected leaders, as matriarchs, as grandparents and parents, came into focus. At 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon, my wife Joan and I were blessed with our 12th grandchild. And I'm prouder to say we have achieved gender balance. 6 granddaughters and 6 grandsons. And without question, my grandchildren are the center of my universe. And it's very, very hard for me to leave home and to come to a big city, as my grandson Marcus calls Vancouver. But I know in my heart that a question that an elder asked a very long time ago at a meeting in Port Alberni, what does the future hold for my grandchildren, hangs in the balance. And that is exactly why we're all here today. You are such a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful sight, standing up here, seeing so many deeply committed people coming out in the rain, because you know in your heart that this is where you need to be. You know in your heart this is where you were meant to be. Your entire life has brought you to this point where you're standing here today. I want to thank the Helsik leadership for providing this beautiful opportunity for us to come together and once again poke a sharp stick in the eye of Enbridge. I would like to thank all of the people that put out messages on Facebook and whatever social media that you're addicted to, and all of the other organizers that made sure that word got out that we are once again here at the Vancouver Art Gallery. The Vancouver Art Gallery is the heart and soul of our humanity in the city of Vancouver, and it's always such a pleasure to come here and to share time with my brothers and sisters who are committed to social and political and economic justice, because we love our grandchildren and we love our children. So I want to thank each and every one of you for being here today. I recall it was a couple years ago, a year and a half ago we were here. I remember we had MPs and MLAs and it was just pouring rain when we were here. I want to express a special gratitude to the Save Our Fraser Declaration and all of the First Nations communities. I want to thank the Coastal First Nations, the Yinka Dene Alliance, and the Carrier Sikanee Tribal Council for keeping the flame burning strong. But most importantly, I want to thank all of you as individuals for getting up this morning and making that important decision to come out here and to share your time with us and to support this cause. We absolutely know that this fight is going to completely eclipse the Clayowit Sound fight. We know that the Harbour government is a couple clowns short of a full circus. And we know that this fight will intensify. And I know that you will be there. So when I go home and hug and kiss my grandchildren, I will tell them that you were here, and I will tell them that you will be there tomorrow and the day after, and I will tell them that we will win this fight. And we will make this world a better place for them to grow up in, a better place for all of your grandchildren to grow up in. And I thank all of the leadership that has come before us from all corners of the earth, all walks of life, for bringing us to this point here today. Why Lim Lim?
So I'd like to introduce Ben West from Wilderness Committee to give a few words.
How you guys all doing out there? I'm gonna take your picture for Facebook. I'm addicted, what can I say? All right, you know, if I was a politician and the Conservative Party right now, I'd be shaking in my boots. You know what? It's a Monday afternoon. It's a Monday afternoon. Look at you guys. This is crazy. You know, when we were talking about this, I'm probably a little too young to be jaded, but I was saying, Monday afternoon, is anybody really going to show up? If I was a politician, I was looking how many people showed up on a rainy Monday afternoon to say no to oil tankers right here in British Columbia. I would literally be shaking in my boots right now. You know, there's a reason why they're fighting so hard right now. Big Oil's got their back up against the wall, and it's because of you guys. You know, they know that people are saying no to this, and they're trying to do it any way possible. You know how many times Bill stopped the Keystone Pipeline? It keeps coming back again and again and again. Every time you go to a movie, all you see is ads for the oil sands. Anytime you watch a TV show, all you see is ads for the oil sands. But you know what? I don't think it's having much of an impact, because look at you guys. So, I want to tell you about something real sneaky that's going on right here in our backyard. Who here knows about the Kinder Morgan pipeline? All right, almost everybody here, and that's a really good sign. You know, there's a company, Kinder Morgan. It's owned by Richard Kinder and Bill Morgan. You ever heard of the company Enron? Richard Kinder, the Wall Street Journal said, was the luckiest ex-Enron employee. He isn't sitting in jail like a lot of his buddies are, because he left before all that happened, took millions of dollars with him, bought one of the biggest pipeline companies in the world, bought up pipelines, including the one that comes right into Burnaby. That most people, the first time they even heard about it was when it burst in 2007. And I can tell you, we went and knocked on doors right before we did a rally in that neighborhood to many of the people who literally had oil spilling in their backyard. You've heard of not in my backyard. They literally had an oil spill in their backyard. And many of those people didn't know Kinder Morgan had already increased the size of that pipeline the year after that oil spill. Can everybody here say shame? Shame! Wow, that was fun. Thanks. So Kinder Morgan has a plan, and they're planning to announce the details of it this week. They said by the end of March they're going to bring their proposal to the National Energy Board. And what they want to do is increase their pipeline from 300,000 barrels a day up to 600 or maybe even 700,000 barrels a day. Can everybody here say shame? Shame! Is anybody here in favor of that project? No! Wow, this is really fun. So, you know, the thing that you got to do is tell every single person you know about this, because Kinder Morgan has been trying to do this as quietly as possible. They don't want anybody to know what they're planning to do because they know that you don't support it. They've seen the opposition to Keystone. They've seen the opposition to Enbridge, and they know that they've got an existing tanker shipping route. They've got an existing pipeline, and they think they're going to be the only act left in town when everybody says no to these other projects. So we have to stand together to say no to all of these projects. So I think I'm at the end of my time, so I'm just going to say one thing. There's this amazing group of high school students that are here. They call themselves the Youth for Climate Justice Now. Are you guys out there somewhere? Youth for Climate Justice Now. Hold up your petition really high. Everybody see Angela there? There's a petition in our hand supporting the Save the Fraser Declaration, this historic declaration to oppose oil tanker traffic. We got more copies of it over at the tent over there. We need as many signatures on that petition as possible. They're organizing a big parade on Earth Day this year on Commercial Drive. It's going to end in Grandview Park, and I want to invite you all to come to be at that event as well. That'll be our next big event in the opposition to the Kinder Morgan pipeline. And together, all of us can stop all of these pipelines and we can move on to a better, sustainable future for everybody. Thank you all so much for being here.
Thanks, everyone. I'd like to introduce Jim Britton from the CEP Union.
Thank you very, very much. I feel absolutely privileged to be able to be here and speak with you this afternoon. Yes, we are CEP. We are the Communication, Energy and Paper Workers Union. We are Canada's energy union, and we stand with you on this issue. We have spent literally hundreds of thousands of dollars intervening at the National Energy Board on every pipeline issue in this country. We have spoke in every community to try to educate as many as we can on the pipeline issues happening in Canada. We do not support Enbridge. We do not support Northern Gateway. We do not support any pipeline that's taking oil across our lands. Sisters and brothers, there is a happening in Canada. We have a government, we have Mr. Harper, who is trying to implement probably the worst policy we've seen in our lifetime. It is not just an environmental catastrophe, but a financial one that will affect every single person in this country if we don't say no. And sisters and brothers, the answer is simply no. We have to become one. We will become one. That is the only way we will overcome what is happening to our country. This isn't just about oil. This is about us. This is about our communities. This is about developing an energy strategy that we don't have today. We do not have an energy strategy in a country that is being called Canada's gas station by our Prime Minister. What we need is an oil policy that is fair to workers, fair to communities, fair to First Nations, fair to our children, and fair to our grandchildren. I listened to the speaker before me. I have 5 grandchildren, and I'm concerned about them every day, and here's why. I am ashamed to say that my generation will hand down to my children an earth that is worse off than when it was handed to me. The first generation in the history of our record keeping that we're handing off our communities, our earth, to people that have to fix what we've created. Sisters and brothers, I hope one day we all stand together. We all say no. We all become one. We are with you. Thank you very much.
So I'd like to introduce Dr. Mark Jackard, who's a professor at SFU.
Wow, there's a lot of people here. I didn't expect this when they asked. So I have bad news and good news. The bad news is the organizers actually got an academic to speak at a rally. The good news is I only have 3 minutes. So oil tankers and oil pipelines threaten the ecosystems we depend on and love. So we're justifiably fighting to stop this pipeline, these tankers. But in this struggle, we must not forget that the fossil fuel industry threatens the natural world with more than just oil spills. It threatens to destroy all ecosystems everywhere. Scientists are telling us that rising global temperatures from burning coal, oil, and natural gas will devastate ecosystems all over the planet, and that we're heading rapidly to temperatures that the Earth has not seen in millions of years. They tell us that global emissions must fall 60 to 80% by 2050. That's a big reduction, and it requires immediate action. And this necessity raises a question for us here today. What happens if we succeed in stopping the pipeline, but fail to stop the accelerating rate at which the fossil fuel industry is extracting carbon from the Earth's crust? The answer is cruel. The ecosystems that we're trying to save by stopping this pipeline and tankers get destroyed anyway. I run a research team at Simon Fraser that studies how our economy produces and consumes energy and what this means for greenhouse gas emissions. We collaborate with leading research teams from around the world, and one important insight from our work is that we know what energy investments must happen today in order to reach a greenhouse gas reduction target in some future year, even a target as distant as 2050. Because energy investments last many decades. We know that coal plants can't be built. We know that oil sands production must decline. We know that vehicles must run on electricity and biofuels, and we must have public transit. And most importantly, we know when a politician is lying. Stephen Harper has promised to reduce Canadian emissions 65% by 2050, and at the same time, he aggressively pushes oil sands expansion and new oil pipelines. These don't go together. Every research team I collaborate with around the world knows that Canada can't achieve this target if today it's expanding oil sands and building new pipelines. It's that simple. So my message is basic. If we're realistic about the threats to the ecosystems we want to protect, we must stop development of oil pipelines and oil tankers in BC, but at the same time, we have to convince the rest of society that fossil fuel expansion must stop now. And if you know this, and you know this, and people have talked about their children, and you ask yourself what's the ethically right thing to do, I've become convinced that part of that response may have to be civil disobedience. I don't see any other way. We can succeed. In BC alone, in the last 10 years, and many of you were probably involved in this as I was, civic activism played a critical role in stopping a natural gas pipeline to Vancouver Island, in stopping a large natural gas burning plant on Vancouver Island, in stopping a coal plant in the Peace River region, in stopping a coal plant near Princeton. So we can do this too. We have no choice, and looking around me here, I'm confident that we can do it. Thank you very much.
But there are some amazing people in Alberta who are with us in solidarity. So I'd like to introduce Melina Labukan Massimo from Greenpeace.
Hi. Tansakia. Nia Melina Miowapin Labukan Massimo. Nia Nihia Kinaskumtanawau. It's good to be here today on unceded Coast Salish territories. It's an honor. I come from northern Alberta. I come from a community that's impacted by tar sands extraction. And I'm also a climate and energy campaigner with Greenpeace based in Alberta. It's amazing to see all you guys here standing in solidarity with the communities that are impacted by this extraction process and the communities that are standing in opposition to the pipeline and the super tankers that will impact their territories if this were to happen. Last spring, I returned home to witness one of the biggest oil spills in Alberta's history. It was 10 kilometers away from my family's homes. What I saw was a landscape that was forever changed. One that where my family has picked berries, hunted, trapped, fished for thousands of years. And now we know that that land will never be the same. Days before the federal and provincial government admitted that this was happening, my family was sending me messages telling me of burning eyes, headaches, nausea, dizziness. The school was shut down for a week and a half. It wasn't until after the federal election of last year that the information was released about the magnitude of the spill. 28,000 barrels, 4.5 million liters leaked onto our traditional territory without the community even knowing that it was happening. Soon afterward, the story was swept under the carpet, away from the eyes of the public. And yet we know that even though they say it will be cleaned, we know it will never be the same. And never would I wish this upon anyone else. Never would I wish this upon my worst enemy. Never would I wish this upon our Indigenous brothers and sisters that stand here today, that are in opposition to the pipeline and to the tankers on this west coast, this beautiful west coast that I stand here today. Never would I hope that someone would have to tell their family member that the toxic fumes that they're breathing in are from an oil spill nearby. That pregnant women, that elders should have probably have left the community, but no one was telling them this. Shame. The government tried so hard to deny that there was a problem that it put my family and the rest of the community at risk. Shame. And the most sad and frustrating thing about this is that my community will not be the first, nor will it be the last to experience these devastating and drastic situations. We saw it happen over 20 years ago with the Exxon Valdez spill, and we see it happening with increasing incidents across North America and the world. This is why we are here today, so that other communities can hopefully avoid this type of spill. Whether it be in the north of BC, the beautiful, beautiful coast here, or here in Vancouver Port. And the fact is that the oil that fills these pipelines is the dirtiest form of oil on the face of the planet. And that's why we are seeing in Alberta the most devastating impacts. We see pristine living ecosystems being destroyed and replaced by industrialized landscapes, where we can no longer utilize the land, where people are scared to drink the water, where people are developing health issues, elevated rates of cancers, respiratory illnesses, due to the increasing toxicity and emissions that we are dealing with. Communities can no longer access their traditional territories due to the ever-expanding tar sands operations that are on the landscape. Where I come from, billions of dollars are taken out of our traditional territory, and yet my family goes without running water till this day. Shame. We see abject poverty in the richest province of the country. We see First Nation communities living in third world conditions when they're in the midst of a first world country. Shame. We see Aboriginal and treaty rights being violated in the name of tar sands. Shame. We have the choice to change the direction we are taking in this world. Canada could become a world leader in renewable energy. They have that choice. They have that choice to switch to renewable energy systems where our communities would not have to suffer, where we would not have to sustain massive industrialization of tar sands, where we would not need to build more pipelines and put more super tankers on the west coast. And that's what we are demanding here today. So it's good to be here. Hi, thank you very much. When I say stop the, you say tar sands. Stop the. Stop the. When I say stop the, you say pipeline. Stop the. Stop the. When I say stop the, you say pipelines. Stop the. Stop the. And when I say climate, you say justice. Climate. Climate. Justice. Hi.
Also from born in Fort McMurray, we have actress Tantu Cardinal.
Hi, kinaskum nawa me tonne te huche. No te coche. Naskmun. The ones who can't be here. The ones who have gone on, who have been victims of this poison that has been in that land for so long. They knew it was in there at the end of the 1800s. So I had the great fortune, in a sense, because you're not born with blinders after a while. But the hope is that by taking away language, by taking away culture, by getting you off the land. I remember as a child my uncles talking amongst his friends about how they had to get off the trap lines. I come from the Métis world. We didn't have treaties. We didn't have land base, an official land base. All around me, my relatives come from the treaty world. That was supposed to mean something. But the whole programming, the brainwashing, the destruction of spirit and soul that went on for generations was very effective. Poverty is a tool. It's a weapon. Why is it that there have been so many royal commissions, all kinds of recommendations that can go around the world more than those plastic bottles can go around the world, and nothing can be done? Now, how is that? Here you've got, companies that live in companies that have made more money than anyone in the world at any time. And they still want more. They still got to take more. And the work that is done every day on television, on radio, and in lifestyles, how it's really important that you have that second car, or that you have that boat, or you can go and do all these things that rich people can do. And that if you go against oil and the fossil fuels, you're going to wind up poor. You're not going to be able to have a standard of living that you're entitled to. I went to Central America, and I was sitting in an ambassador's office in Guatemala. And the words that were coming out of this man's face were the very same words that I heard when I was a youth, about how this would be a great advantage. You could have well-paying jobs. You would have stability for your families. It would be a change of lifestyle, an advancement in your lifestyle. And what do we have? Three-eyed fish. You can't live off of that water. You can't eat the animals off that land. You can't eat the birds from the air over there in a land that once nurtured me. So, and in Guatemala, Mexico, Honduras, the indigenous people there, particularly women, are targeted, are fighting literally with their lives. And Canada, that man there on that poster, he's got all kinds of people out there spreading that same thing, ripping people off the land, demeaning our cultures, that it's backwards, we're not all that civilized, we're kind of primitive. But the wisdom of my mother's people, thank you for being here and for taking that stand. Because the people have been alone for a long, long time back home. That brainwashing is so powerful, so very effective. So don't let anybody turn you away. If you feel kind of funny for yelling, shame! Don't. And if people try to tell you, yeah, you're crazy, you're never going to change anything, don't listen. Just connect with the earth. Connect with the earth. Remember your mother's people. Even you're not Indigenous, that doesn't mean that in your history you were not at one time connected with the land. Remember that time. Keep that in your heart. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
And there we have Sophie Harrison right now from Kids for Climate Action.
I have a vision about climate change and what it could mean for my future that haunts me. Decades from now, I'm sitting across the breakfast table from my daughter, who's maybe my age. We're listening to reports on the news about drought, flooding, conflict, disease, all caused by climate change. And my daughter, who I know I will love more than anything else in the world, looks into my eyes and says, "Mom, how could you have let this happen?" And I get choked up every time I think about this. And I know that's weird, because I'm just a kid, that I think of my kids too when I think of climate change, but I do. And this vision is so real to me. But every time I start to feel this sense of despair, this sense of hopelessness, I remind myself that it's not over yet. And it's when I'm in crowds like this with all these inspirational people that I regain that hope that we can do this. We have to do this. Because my generation deserves a better future to raise our kids in. And more pipelines and more tankers and more tar sands oil is not setting us on a track for that future. So we need to build a movement that will create so much political pressure that failing to act on climate change will no longer be a valid political option for our leaders. And while we're continuing to build that movement, we must keep on asking ourselves, what can I do next? So now I want to ask you, on behalf of Kids for Climate Action and UBC 350, to join us this coming Saturday, March 31st, as we storm the riding of BC Premier Christy Clark. Hundreds of students from UBC, from high schools, and fellow community members from the Vancouver community will be canvassing the riding of Vancouver Point Grey to demand that our Premier take a stand against the Enbridge Northern Gateway pipeline. And I hope that you'll join us, because those of us who understand how much is at stake when it comes to climate change need to speak out. We need to engage with our fellow citizens and with our political process. We've got people, look at the UBC signs over there, guys, wave. They've got sign-up sheets for the event, so if you're interested, you can sign up over there and talk to them, or go to our website, ubcc350.org, to find all the info online and sign up there. Thank you. Stop the carbon pipeline!
So this next singer is, I have had the privilege of hearing her sing up at a rally in Prince Rupert that the GitGat organized, and I've heard her on other occasions, and I am supposed to let her know that the United Fishers and Allied Workers Union and municipalities like Prince Rupert, Smithers, and others who have had declarations against the Enbridge pipeline, and so many of us in the communities in the north are standing behind Takaya Blaney as she sings.
Hello? Okay. Hello, my name is Takaya Blaney, and I'm 11 years old, and I'm from the Slime Nation. I may be 11, but I understand that if we bring this pipeline through, then we won't be able to canoe, we won't be able to practice our culture, our traditional ways, because we can't canoe in an ocean of oil, and we can't feed a two-headed salmon to our elders and children, and we won't be able to teach the practices of our culture to the future generations when we are unable to practice them ourselves because of the oil. We can't drink water that is contaminated. We can't. Everything that the pipeline brings is just the word can't and the word destroy. In short, I could go on about how we need to say no to the pipeline, but it's just a simple word of what we're here to say today is no. N-O. So, I'm gonna sing a song that I wrote 2 years ago, and it's called Shallow Waters, and it's based on this supertanker oil proposal. It was meant to remind people of the damaging effects of oil spills. It was meant to remind people if we pollute and pollute and pollute, this beautiful ecosystem and biome that we live in will be all gone. And there's a lyric in the song that says, if we do nothing, it'll all be gone, which I think is the real situation over here. So this is Shallow Waters, and it was funny because a year ago on this exact day, I went to Enbridge building to tell them about what I felt about their pipeline, and I was just escorted out, and I was told that if I didn't leave, I would be charged for trespassing. Charge a 10-year-old girl for trespassing, so... So this is Shallow Waters, and I hope you enjoy it. Shallow waters, I can't see your clear waves lapping at my feet. Lifeless ocean, black, not blue. I didn't help it deep down, I knew. In shallow waters, I used to see wondrous at my feet. Lifeless ocean, black, not blue. I didn't help but deep down I knew. Oh, 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 why do tears fall from the sky? Oh, 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 have we given up? Please tell me why. Remember the salty ocean breeze used to build castles on the beach, splashing around in the summer heat. Now it's just oil up to our knees. Bring back the days we used to care. All of these troubles were not there. Cry for help, this is my song. If we do nothing, it'll all be gone. In shallow waters, I can't see the wonders life God created to be. Tankers and pipelines keep coming through. I turned my head and so did you. Oh, 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 why do tears fall from the sky? Oh, 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 have we given up? Please tell me why. Remember the salty ocean breeze used to build castles on the beach, splashing around in the summer heat. Now it's just oil up to our knees. Bring back the days we used to care, when all of these troubles were not there. Cry for help, this is my song. If we do nothing, it'll all be gone. Oh, come with me to the Emerald Sea, where black gold spills into my ocean dreams. Nothing to be found, no life is around, just the sound of morning. gone. If we do nothing, it'll all be gone. Oh, in shallow waters I can't see your clear waves lapping at my feet. My dad always told me when I was younger that if the Creator gave you a gift, that you had to share it. Now I'm telling you that you all have a voice. Don't be afraid to speak up about what you're passionate about, and you have a gift to share it. Totally radical.
We thank you, Wallace Guyasaka, for coming out with us today to stand in solidarity, to rally together, to say no more. We're not going to be able to allow these people to do this to our sacred waters. We want to protect the Great Bear Rainforest for future generations. Let them go south, let them go east, but let's protect the west. Maintain the biodiversity of the West Coast. Wallace Guyasaka.